So starting this reading log with Blue Lock Volume 14. I had to really read this volume because the next episode for the anime, it's finally the competition between Blue Lock and the U20 Japan. And holy cow, this was a very intense volume. I'm like, I need volume 15. It's still on the way. I'm trying to read it online, but I have to pay. You can't really use your points to open the chapters, and so I'm like contemplating, should I pay, or because volume 16 won't come out probably January, and I feel like the anime is gonna be way further. It sucks that the anime will be advancing before the manga, because here in the US the manga has been, it's not slow releases, but it's been coming every other month, which is still not bad. Anywho, holy cow, the UA20 Japan players are very in shock that the Blue Lock players are actually pretty good. They thought they're just a bunch of high schooler, doesn't know too much about soccer, but they really do. They really undermine the Blue Lock players, like holy cow. I think the biggest anticipation for this volume is seeing Ray and Sei competing against each other, because their brother Narin wants to prove to his older brother that he will defeat him someday. But Sei is just so good, and that is why they call him the prodigy. And so now that the competition started, the Blue Lock players has been really improving with their techniques and skills. Like holy cow, they've gone through so much training, and of course a lot of emotions, and of course they were nervous and had a lot of thinking because they're competing against pro players. And so, but somehow they were able to overcome a lot of things, especially playing in the field with a lot of expectation, because now if the U20 Japan team lose, the Blue Lock will take over the professional team. And so of course this is going to be super intense because both sides don't want to lose. And so can't wait to read more of this Blue Lock. Holy cow, I need the next volume. Now I just finished reading The Heroic Legend of Arslan. I read 2 and 3. Oh my god, I can keep reading, but I want to take my time. So far, Arslan found a place to stay. He met Narcissus. He used to work under the king, but he decided to leave that life and be an artist. And so now his place apparently was found by the enemy Lusitania, and so they had to leave and go on a quest to find other places to stay, and as well as gather information because they want to know if the king is alive or not. Unfortunately, Ektagbana has been seized by the enemy, and yeah, that was very brutal, not very good scene, and a lot of like the leaders, a lot of people were killed because Lusitania, they have their way of things. They have this god that they believe, and if they don't convert, well, sadly they can't continue living. And so the story is just really good. It's full of adventure, a lot of fighting. It can be a little bit gory, but it's tolerable. So now Arslan is just trying to do his best and kind of practice at the same time, because in case he needs to fight. And so we also get to meet 2 other characters that will join with his company, because so far you got Arslan, Daryan, Narcissus, and Elam. And then down the line we got Lady Farangis and Give that will join later in the story. And so his little group is slowly growing, but for now they need more people in order to take back Ektagbana, because right now they don't have the numbers they need to go fight the enemy, because their numbers is pretty large. And for now they're just trying their best to find answers about the king, what's gonna happen next. The queen is still alive, but there's rumors that she'll probably have to marry the new emperor of Lusitania. But of course the soldiers doesn't want that to happen because she doesn't believe in the fate of their god, and that may cause a lot of conflicts among the soldiers and the rest of Lusitania's clergy and other top leaders. I really like the story where it's heading. I mean, even though there's a lot of politics, bureaucracy, as well as belief of fate, that's usually what causes mostly when it comes to war. And so yeah, really like it so far. Very historical, because they mention a lot of like familiar places like Turkey. I believe Lusitania is a real country. Before I forget, there's also a mysterious character who wears a mask. We get to learn later that this is the nephew of Arslan's father because his father's older brother. They also had a conflict. Let's just say the conflict was mostly about who's gonna marry this beautiful woman, and apparently the queen just brings a lot of bad luck. His name is actually Hermes. His main goal is to capture Arslan before they can kill the king, because of course he wants to show the king that whatever you did to my father, I'm gonna do the same thing to your son. And so looking forward reading the rest of the story. So I'm gonna go straight to the point. I don't think this manga is for me. This one's called Takane and Hana. Now Takane, he's 26, yet he acts like he's still a teens, and then Hana, she's only 16. Now these two met up because of a arranged through the father and the grandfather, because they think they might be a good duo, and it's not supposed to be Hana meeting Takane, it's supposed to be her older sister, but the older sister wasn't interested, and down the line these two decide to start hanging out because Takane seems well interested, but he just seemed very controlling, blah blah blah. But overall, I don't think I like the age gap, even though it seems all silly and they're just having fun. I do find it kind of funny, but at the same time, I think this type of romance is just not for me. And so I'm gonna just drop this manga, and I did try, and you know what, I'm just gonna move on. And yeah, okay dokie, I just finished reading this manga called I Want to Be a Wall volume 2. So we got this two main character named Yuriko and Gakurota. They have this pretend marriage relationship. Now Yuriko is actually an asexual, while Gakurota, he's actually gay. They decided to get married because I think both family wanted them to get married, and I guess maybe they were pressured to get married. Actually, in this volume, it talks about how they were set up, or there was like an arranged meeting. Now Gakurota, I think his grandmother wanted to see him get married because, you know, she's probably wanted to see him have a happy family one day, and Rico, I think she was only doing this for her mom's sake. And so even though like they don't have any special feelings towards each other, they still respect one another, and they are slowly like getting to know each other, because even though like they live together, somehow they still don't know too much about each other. And then eventually they do open up about their dislikes and likes, and there was a time where Yuriko had to meet a friend, and then coincidentally Gakurota was in the same area, and he kind of felt worried or nervous, and maybe this is like a secret fling, but yeah, he was just imagining too much things in his head. But actually he found out this is just an old friend, and this guy is happened to be gay also, and this friend also knows about their relationship, and he's very supportive towards them. Yeah, I think Gakurota is slowly opening up about his, you know, being gay to another gay guy, because I think only Rika knows about him being gay. It's a really nice read. You get to learn a lot from each characters, as well as it's also educational in my opinion. And there's only one more volume left, so can't wait to read that and see how the story ends. As you can see, I just finished reading Blood on the Tracks. I read from 11 to 17. Yes, I definitely binge read this manga. I think it's because it's so easy to read. There's not a lot of context. There's just a lot of illustration, but the illustration is still moving. You can feel like what's going on in the story. And so now the story started very horrible. We got our main character Sechi. He witnessed about his cousin regarding about what the mom did, but eventually like she admitted that she didn't do anything wrong. Now Sechi, on the other hand, he went through so much emotion. Now this story is a little bit of horror, psychological, and a little bit of thriller, but I'm not quite sure if it is sort of a thriller. But anywho, Sechi, he actually did something horrible, which he kind of ended up in the juvenile. I don't want to say how he ended up in the juvenile because that would be like a big spoiler. So after serving being the juvenile correction, the manga jumped 20 years after. I'm not sure if he was either 13 or 14, and then 20 years after, he's around in his 30s. Now he moved to Tokyo because he wanted to start over, be on his own. Now he kind of stopped contacting his father, but his father didn't stop contacting him, but until one day he finally like picked up the phone and started talking to his father, but sadly the father passed away. I'd say he passed away from natural causes. Then soon after, out of the blue, he received a phone call from the police station that they had a woman. Apparently this woman has a contact of him, and so he went to the police station. He kind of knew and had a feeling who could it be, and of course he was right. It was his mother. So when he went to the juvenile correction during his hearing, the mom was not very nice. She sounded very like, oh, I don't have a son. She wanted to like start over. Not that his son is, kind of like gone, because now he's going to be at the juvenile correction. And so after that they lost contact. They haven't like spoken and see each other after 20 years or so. So the mom ended up in the police station because they found her just walking around, and they found out that she doesn't have a place to stay because the place that she was staying, she couldn't afford the rent. And so Sechi decided to cover the rent because I don't think he wanted his mom to be living with him because of all the things he went through in the past. But sooner or later he does like start visiting his mom, because I think it's either just word or there's not really like what goes through his mind, except maybe he just wanted to see the mom. And yeah, the mom is at the age where she needs assistance, and so Sechi had to help out whenever he can because he does have a job. And eventually like she started living under him because he can't afford two rents. And then after that, well, the mom did pass away with natural causes. And Sechi, I think he felt free. Now I forgot to mention this. When his father passed away, there was a point of his life that he didn't want to continue living, but some way he stopped himself, and that is when, out of the blue, the police station called about his mom. And then after his mom passed away, he does start living his life to the fullest with no regrets. He started reading books. I'm not sure if he moved back to his old hometown, but it did sort of show. But yeah, he did grow up old, and I don't think he got married. But yeah, it is a really, really nice story, even though it started horrible. And in the middle, it kind of started like, oh no, something is going on with Sechi, and that's when he ended up in the juvenile correction. We also get to learn about the mom's past. Maybe she acts certain way. It is because it is reflecting how she was treated when she was young. Now, her parents was divorced. Her mom was not very nice to her. Is because they were so focused on the little sister since she had a condition. Then growing up, she just went with the flow, went to Tokyo, started living her life. After Sechi was born, her life completely changed. Now she was very happy. Like she wanted to give Sechi all the love that she can give because she didn't receive any love from her parents. However, now the auntie, which is the husband's sister, she was also feeding her some negatives. I think that's also kind of drove her to act certain way. And yeah, it was a very interesting read about her past, and we kind of understand why she, acted certain way. From what I'm understanding, I think Sechi's mom's just been feeling alone growing up. She didn't receive the love that she needed from her parents. Even though she has a husband, the husband isn't really around as much because he's too busy with his job. And so she was just so focused taking care of Sechi, and that is why Polly made her kind of go crazy. Which conclude that, even though the story started horrible, now it all kind of makes sense why the mom had to do what she wanted to do. But yeah, in the end, it was still beautiful. Sechi, still wanted to take care of his mom after all the horrible emotions and things that he experienced in the past. I'm kind of glad that he wanted to just move on and still take care of his mom. And so, yeah, definitely recommend this manga. There is some trigger warning. Make sure you learn about it before you read, because there is some part that can be shocking to your own reading. I'm glad that I read this series. I'm looking forward to actually read more of Suzu Oshime's work because I just hear good things about her work. And so yeah, looking forward to read more of her mangas, and we'll see what I read next. Another series that is complete and finished, this is Horizon Volume 3. As you can see, it is the final. This is a manhwa. Oh my god. The ending was really nice. However, in the middle of the story, something happened with the little girl. Now in volume 2, it talks about her backstory. She was on a bus with a group of people, and her dad, unfortunately, slowly, one by one, they passed away due to a certain disease, and she was the only one left until she met the little boy. And so these two started on their journey, just, walking at a path that would probably someday lead to something. Of course, they overcome a lot of challenges and obstacles. They met a weird man. They end up in this city, and this man actually helped them. They had to leave because I don't think it was safe. And then suddenly the little boy was sick, and he finally woke up, and the little girl was so happy. And so they just keep walking and walking. They met an old man but had to run away because he was acting crazy. And then the road ended at a forest, but they still kept walking and walking until they met another two children almost the same age as them. However, something happened. Like, something happened. Afterward, let's just say it was just the boy left. Yep, it was just him left. And then a soldier found him laying in the ground. Then the story jumped many, many years later. I would say, 30 to 40 years. Probably in his 50 and 60, living at this house by the beach. And then one day he met this couple living in the forest. And then eventually they, grew a nice friendship. And the couple find out that they're pregnant. And then suddenly the husband or boyfriend was swept away by the ocean. And so the little boy, who is now an old man, tried to save him. And he think at first that he can't do this. There's just no hope. Everything is just seemed dark and scary. But suddenly there was a light, and that was the sunrise, the horizon. I think it was a sign of hope and a miracle that, he needs to continue this light, even though it's a very scary world out there because it's just so unpredictable. And once the couple had their baby, it was a little girl. The little girl was calling the old man grandpa, which was so beautiful and touching. Like, wow. Now, the end was really nice. And even though he didn't get the happiness and the future that he wanted with his friend, the little girl, but in the very end, he still gained a new friendship with this couple and, of course, this little girl. And so, yeah, overall, the story was really nice. It was not bad. Again, it started really kind of dark, and then suddenly, they thought there will be hope, and there was hope at the very end of this story. I definitely recommend this manhwa. It's just so simple, straightforward, yet sad, and they did face a lot of struggles, but, at the very end, again, there was hope. So I have 2 and 3 volume, but I'm going to make some connection because I just noticed something. Now, volume 3 feels like the cover feels like volume 1 because it started really dark. Now volume 2, this scene was actually in volume 3, and it's like there was a hint that there might be some hope. And in volume 1, I'm going to show it right now, which is actually the beach where the old man, the little boy, is living at the end of the story. And so, yeah, the cover is like backwards, if that makes sense. And so I just decided to make this connection. Anyway, such a nice story, honestly. I wish I had number 1, but you know what? I'm going to get that later. But definitely recommend this manhwa if you can. Just a good story. Well, guys, I just finished another series. This is the last volume of Our Dreams at Dusk, volume 4. What a good ending. Now, this story is basically about a drop-in center where people are welcome from any other type of, sexuality. Our main character named Tasuki, he suddenly started hanging out at this drop-in center over summer because he's still trying to figure out about himself, but deep inside, he is gay. He hasn't really told anyone until he started visiting this drop-in center because everybody is so nice. The crush name is Subaki. One day, Subaki had a change of heart because Tasuki told him off about him being gay and about the drop-in center. And ever since then, Subaki, like I said, had a change of heart. And since then, he's been hanging out in the drop-in center. And at the end of this volume, someone got married, a couple got married. I think it's kind of obvious, it's in the front cover. What a wonderful celebratory about this too, and everybody was so happy for them. Now this couple was worried about telling their parents because in reality society hasn't accepted the LGBT community, and it's been kind of difficult and challenging, but at the same time, as long you know what you want, as long you're happy, that's all that matters. I just love all the characters in this story. They're also positive and supportive to one another and just very caring and kind at the same time. And one of the characters here named Ilya, his story was kind of sad because his partner, passed away, and they've been together for so long, and then suddenly Ilya started talking to the partner's son because they really haven't told the son about their relationship because, again, society. And yeah, that was a really nice sad story. It almost made me cry because sometimes you have to protect the person that you love, especially if you're afraid of getting it out there, because you never know that people might be so negative and not accepting. And that is why this series is so educational. You get to learn a lot of things about each character, what they gone through, and later they realize like they don't have to tell everybody about who they are or what they want, because at the end of the day, in truth, it is nobody's business, and it is up to them if they want to share it to anybody that they want to. And that is why there's a character named Someone's Son. She called herself Someone's Son because I think Ilya made that name for her because she wants to live freely with no label, and all she does is sort of listen. She doesn't judge, and that is why she sort of started this drop-in center for anybody who wants to just be free and let them be who they are. Overall, it's a good series, a very short series to read, and I definitely recommend this with being open-minded and like don't expect anything. It's a really good story, and so give it a chance if you can. All right, I just finished this webtoon called The Perks of Being an S-Class Heroine. Now, I didn't expect this story to be an isekai, sort of RPG-esque, because we have this young girl who was transferred in this world. Now, before that, she passed away and became a transmigrator. And so when she transferred to another world, she was given a choice to be part of a novel story, and she wanted to be part of a child romance, but instead it's different, and she was told to make sure that she lasts until the end of the story. Now she does speak through what the story is all about, and I guess she can probably change the course of the event. So after going to her world, she found that it was different, and the protagonist, which is her, and she found out that she's not supposed to be treated well. However, she realized she has all this skill set because she was buying all this skill set using her that whole screen RPGs, and now like people around her wants her because she's just very super talented. And of course she can't choose either one, and so she sort of like just multitask and just give people what they want. And then one day she was invited to do a playmate with the countess' daughter because the countess' daughter doesn't have any friend, and that went well actually. And then one day they went to the library, and when they were picking a book, suddenly the whole atmosphere changed to a dungeon. And so I forgot to tell you guys, her name is actually Aileti. Now Aileti had to fight a monster. She had to use as much of skills she can find and buy, and she overcome that. And during this whole battle, God was with her, kind of guiding her through all this stuff. And she also found out that she wasn't supposed to die and not become a transmigrator because there was an error in the system. And so she was so pissed off. But you know what? I think she doesn't mind living in this world because back in her world, she wasn't treated right by her auntie and uncle because her brother and father died when she was young, and since then her life has been miserable. And actually in this new world she has a brother and a father, and she's actually very happy that she has a family and would rather live in this world because people around her are way better than I guess back in her real world. And so overall the story is just about her trying to survive, trying to last until the end of the story, and kind of figure out what she can do or how to live in this world. And I just hope I explained that well, because when I started reading this webtoon I was sort of confused. It was kind of hard to follow, to be honest. and at the same time, I didn't know how I feel about it. I almost wanted to drop this webtoon, to be honest, but you know what? I think I'm gonna give it a chance because it seems like there's potential. And yeah, since this is a webtoon, of course it's gonna be colored, nice illustration. I mean, the story is okay. It's very similar from other webtoon and manhwa. I think the biggest difference is that she has to survive until the end of the story and just try to figure things out. So I'm gonna check out the next volume and see where the story goes. So this manga, which I've always wanted to read, this one's called My Brother's Husband, Volume 1 and 2. It's a very short series with just 2 volumes. Now this story is very sweet, kind, and very heartwarming, and you just learn a lot, especially from our main character named Yagichi. So he actually has a twin brother named Ryoji who lives in Canada. However, he actually passed away. Then out of the blue, Ryoji's husband decided to visit Japan and stayed actually at Yaichi's place, the twin brother. Now, Yaichi was very surprised to meet the brother's husband because now Yaichi and the twin brother Ryoji, they kind of like grew apart after college. They haven't really spoken, and so of course he was very surprised. Now, ever since Mike visited, it was just full of fun, and then Yaichi sometimes felt sort of uncomfortable and hasn't fully like accepted, if that makes sense. Now, he does know about his brother being gay, but they never really talk about it because the brother just left. Since Mike is around, he kind of learned more about his twin brother, and so there's some part that's kind of sad, honestly, but overall it's just so sweet. Mike is just so fun. Now, Yaichi has a daughter named Kana. Kana is always looking forward to see Mike and playing with him and hang out with him. Though it did cause some confusion where one of Kana's friends' mother was telling Kana's friend that, don't hang around because it might bring some bad influence. And of course, the father wasn't very happy to hear about because in Japan back then, the LGBT was not very yet open and people wasn't very accepting. And so there was another incident where Mike had to go to the school to drop out something to Kana, and the teacher didn't seem happy, and so they had to bring the father to talk about Kana, that Kana was talking about same-sex marriage and two people being in love. And he also mentioned that it might bring some quote unquote inappropriate subject, that he was worried that Kana might get bullied. But of course, this is just all misunderstanding. Yaichi was not very happy to hear that because it was just all very, sounds like, the teachers just seem very opinionated. And of course, he actually defended that, that's my brother's husband, and he finally felt comfortable because throughout the story he didn't feel comfortable introducing Mike yet to friends, but ever since Mike's is being around, he's just so happy. And Yaichi just had a change of view about Mike, and then of course the brother, that he finally introduced Mike the right way, if that makes sense. I think at that right moment, it was so beautiful that now he feels comfortable. And of course, the teacher either wasn't happy or not, but he actually said something that made me really happy, that, oh, if my daughter is going to get bullied, then it is your job to protect her. Like, yeah. Ever since then, the story just got so more beautiful. The fact that Yaichi feels more comfortable around Mike, because at first, it took him a while. It took him to get adjusted, and I think seeing Mike kind of miss his brother, if that makes sense. And Mike, I think it was really hard for him because they look alike, because they're twins, and so I think Mike wanted to find some closure. The whole reason that Mike is actually in Japan is because he and Roji made a promise to go Japan someday, and so he wanted to fulfill that promise, of course. This story is just beautiful about family, just having a good time, accepting one another and learning one another, and it's just so touching. And I wish there were more. I wish there was like an after monologue if whether Kana and Yaichi actually visited Mike in Canada, because Mike only stayed for 3 weeks. And so, yeah, that really sucked. And Kana was really, really sad because she got very close to, Mike, which is Uncle Mike, which is so cute. I do also want to add this because it was also beautiful. There's a character in the story where he wanted to talk to Mike because he felt like he was the right person to talk about being in the closet, being gay, because he has no anybody to talk to. And sometimes hiding a secret can be tough, and it's hard to connect to others. What if they're gonna judge you? And then that experience might be scary. And yeah, that was also beautiful because it was really hard for him to be open, and when he saw Mike, he was very happy. So if you get a chance, please read this manga. It is beautiful, heartwarming, very educational, and also fun to read because Mike, his first time in Japan, he's just excited and curious, and they go on their little adventure. His first time going to an onsen, eating Japanese food and here and there. But yeah, really, really fun to read. Definitely recommend it. I'll show you guys some illustration. This is actually a hardcover, which kind of reminds me back in the days when I read library manga like this. Like, yeah. Anyway, really nice illustration. Oh my god. I can't believe like I found this at my library because I thought they never had this, because whenever I go online to place a hold, it doesn't show up in their database. And I was actually in the library this week just roaming around to see what else they have, and I found this. I'm so glad I actually went there physically, because normally my husband would just pick up my library manga that's placed on hold. And yeah, so glad I was able to read this. Like, wow, it was just so beautiful. I just want to say this week was so successful. I finished 4 series. We got Blood on the Tracks, horror. Let's see, The Horizon. At first, it was kind of dark, but there is hope. And of course, My Brother's Husband. Very touching, very sweet. I love it. Now, what was the last one? Of course, Our Dreams at That's just finding who you are and accepting who you are. That was definitely a good read. Now, I was able to read more this week is because I had a 3-day weekend, and I do a lot of my binge reading when I'm not working, and so I definitely binge read a lot this past weekend, and starting from Saturday to Monday and the rest, I think I read pretty much a lot for that first 3 days. And then I think I skipped 1 day without reading, and today is actually Thursday. I'm actually gonna end this reading log a little early because tomorrow I actually have a full day. I got work, and then after that I have to go somewhere, and so that's why I decided to end this early. Overall, it was a really good week. It was very fun, and at the same time, even though I didn't like Takane and Hana, at least I tried. Not all manga I'm gonna end up liking, and so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this reading log for this week. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.